back to YourTown TV. I'm Wendy Brodie, the culinary host, and with me today is another fellow chef and friend, Tene Shake, part of the historical Wharf family that goes back, and we need to hear about a lot of that information, but he also has been a TV host himself with Coastal Cuisine, and I got to, in watching you, the colors of food that you use and put together, and we'll talk about the artistry and passion, but I've also known Tene as past president of our American Culinary Federation, and that's a national organization, but we have the Monterey Peninsula chapter of that, and Bert Katina was just on and talking about the importance of that and the spirit that you brought to that and the giving, and I'd like you to share your passion and how it's continuing now that you're chairman. And then you're now president of La Toque Blanche, which we call LTB for short. Yep. But it's a chef's organization where it's an appreciation rather than a working trade organization. Yep. So you've got a lot on your hands and have been doing quite a bit. And it's a pleasure to be with you on that. But thank you for coming today. And so how did you get your...
Honored to be here. I'm telling you, it's with Wendy, you're such an icon, person in our community, and especially among the chefs. And for those viewers that don't know, you are our Martha Stewart of our Monterey Peninsula. We love you, and just honored to be here. But I was listening to all the titles and all the things, some accomplishments and things like that. I start really thinking, I think my biggest problem is I have a hard time saying no. That's why you get all these accolades.
That's in our nature.
It is in our nature.
We're service people.
Yes, we are.
And
yes, we are.
It crushes us if somebody doesn't like or respond to our...
It's interesting. You talked about, passion, and we have so much of that in our peninsula, which is wonderful. And I'll never forget walking into Macy's one year during Christmas, and there was a big sign that said unforgivable in the perfume department. So my curiosity, I walked over there and I was like, what the heck is this unforgivable thing? And picked up this bottle of perfume and turned it over, and it said life without passion is unforgivable.
Oh,
and it was really powerful because, I think that passion really makes a difference in your life when you can find that thing that you're really passionate about. It just is amazing what it does for you and the challenge that it causes you to be more excellent in what you're doing, that drive, that motivation, it all comes together. But, life without passion, that's unforgivable.
And how did you know that cooking was going to be your passion? Because you were a minister at one time, too.
Right. Well, I was very fortunate. My mom and dad started a little restaurant on Fisherman's Wharf, a little 30-seat restaurant called Old Fisherman's Grotto back in the 1950s. And it grew to become just an iconic restaurant. I mean, I can remember growing up in the restaurant. This is before I was born, so I was really born and raised.
Your mom was
Yes,
there.
I have 5 older brothers and no sisters. Can you believe that? 5 older brothers that are all just amazing, brilliant, successful business people. And you learn, you go through life. So the influences, of course, your mom and dad are always huge. But, when you have brothers as dynamic as my brothers are, you learn from them. And, of course, the influences in your life, if you are open, there are so many people that will just influence you as you go through life. One of your previous guests, Bert Katina, unbelievable. He taught me about fine foods and about, plates and just a higher level of cuisine that I didn't know early on, growing up in on the wharf. So his influence was huge in my life. But growing up on the wharf in a restaurant, there was a seafood Italian restaurant. My dad being from Pakistan, my mother being from Italy, put that together, and you got these
poof, the magic colors in your cuisine.
And so that kind of my 2 oldest brothers and my other brother, 3 out of us 6 were commercial fishermen in Monterey. I mean, they harvested a lot of the fish that were served not only in our family's restaurant, but in other restaurants around the peninsula. So, just an amazing history of fishing, the restaurants, that growing up in this, I call it a lifestyle, a seafood lifestyle. So that really was my passion more than anything in the culinary world was seafood. I just really was passionate because people didn't know a lot about seafood. They didn't know how to buy seafood, how to cook seafood. I would always hear people all the time saying, gosh, I just don't know what to do with seafood. So I became even more interested in trying to educate the public on how to buy seafood, cook it, because there's so many health benefits, Wendy, it's unbelievable. If the beef industry or the poultry industry had the bragging rights that the seafood industry has in health benefits, omega-3s and so forth, they'd be shouting from the rooftop. But from seafood, we hear very little about all the great benefits of eating seafood in your diet.
And I remember that, I mean, a lot of people, when you say fish, if they don't know, they associate it with smell. And that's not at all the case when it's fresh. But if you can share some of your pearls about of wisdom in picking out fish that may just seem ordinary to you since you grew up around it, but how do we know that fish is better than this one over here when they're all on ice?
Yeah, that's right. And, it is important that, fish, when you're buying fish, you'll first go to a reputable fishmonger or fish market or somebody that, really has high standards in selling fish, because they're going to be more knowledgeable and educated than just maybe somebody that's, sitting on the side or selling seafood. So that's the most important thing. Second is get to know, just like in the old days, we got to know our meat market person to pick us out the right things. The same thing today with seafood. Get to know the person at the market, and they will give you recommendations. When I go to buy fresh seafood, I may have halibut in mind, but if that's not what's fresh for that day, maybe some fresh rock cod just came in. Maybe they just got in some fresh, beautiful salmon. Buy what's fresh that day. And you may go in with one idea, but have an open mind. Seafood, when you're looking at it, if it's fresh fish, if it's a whole fish, that skin should be shiny. The eyes should be clear. They always say the eyes don't lie. So eyes should be clear, and look into the eyes of that fish, and it should be clear. With the exception of herring, they should be red. But otherwise, fish should have that shiny skin. They should have that nice, clear eyes. And the gills, when you open a whole fish, should not be slimy. They should be a nice red, ruby red color. If you're buying fish fillets, again, your nose is going to be your best, your best buying tool that you have. Take that fish, but don't let them wrap it up. Have them give it to you. Hold it. It should smell fresh. It shouldn't smell fishy. If it does, it's been sitting there for a few days. But it should have a nice fresh smell, translucent, clear, not slimy.
Well, let's say it's a little fishy. Interesting how the name defines it all. It's not fair. That was one strike against the industry without trying. But so is there anything, I know sometimes in the restaurant where I worked at, we'd get all the fish that day, it would be clean that day, and then we'd maybe need to use it the next day, but then we'd rewash it with a little baking soda or something. Are there any tips like that that help refresh?
Yeah, I think one of the best ways to do it that's easy for somebody at home is really simple, is to take that a little a pan of ice water and let that get really cold, and just a little bit of lemon juice. And you just take and put that in, and then let that refresh in there for about 5 to 10 minutes. And it really makes a big difference on the fish. Just gets refreshed, gets cold, brings it down to nice cold temperature, and pat it dry, and you're ready to cook from that point.
When I went to Hong Kong, they buy the fish alive, and you have to pick out your fish live and take it to the restaurant.
Right.
And they were showing how you can tell how sluggish by the way they move. I'm actually quite pleased that we don't have that system here, as good as that is.
Right.
But anyway, and the other question I get in classes that you must too all the time, how do you tell how long you should cook a fish? Is it by height? Is it by type?
Yeah.
Do you have any rules?
Well, there
of
is.
thumbs?
There's the 10-minute rule.
Ooh.
That is something that it's, if you have a fish fillet, it's usually the thickest in the middle, and then it kind of tapers out. So for every 1 inch of the thickest part of the fish, you cook it for 10 minutes. So if it's 1.5 inches thick in the middle, it's going to be 15 minutes. Now, what that means is that you're going to break it down, and let's say it's going to be pan fried. You're going to cook it about 5 minutes on each side, okay? But 10 minutes for every 1 inch of the thickest part of the fish is kind of a good technique.
Oh, that is
If you're
great.
cooking it in the oven, of course, you can, 350 degrees, put it in the oven, and again, follow that, that 10-minute inch rule, 1 inch, and it works out great. And you come out with really not overcooked fish, because sometimes if you overcook it, it can become very dry, depending on the fish and how much oil's in it.
I remember my mother in Palo Alto, she made, what was it? It was fillet of sole wrapped around spinach, and then with Aunt Penny's hollandaise.
I love it. Yeah,
that was our parents' era.
Right.
Of course, you probably never saw a can, but
Right.
But if she overcooked it, it would just be mush. So my brother and I grew up not having an appreciation of fish until I got into the industry.
Right.
And then a whole world opened up.
And there is so much variety of seafood available today that it's really amazing. I mean, if people just put it into their diet even twice a week, really the health benefits are just astronomical. Cardiovascular, I mean, it helps with your preventing cardiovascular disease, your memory, arthritis. There's so many different things that it's good to ingest seafood a couple of weeks, because our bodies don't make omega-3, we ingest it. And there's 3 types of omega-3s, and the 2 biggest ones are in seafood. So we have to ingest more seafood into our systems, because it is very healthy and good for you.
And what are the prime ones that we get out of our own bay here?
Well, we have had, for the last several years, we have not had a lot of what we call ground fish, which is our rock cod, fillet of sole, a lot of the fish that we used to have years ago. And the Monterey Bay Aquarium has been working to reopen that ability for fishermen to catch ground fish. So that's the next evolution you're going to see in Monterey, where fishermen are going to start coming back, start fishing for ground fish, and you're going to start seeing local rock cod, not snapper that comes from Canada or from other parts. It's going to be local rock cod. You're going to see petrale sole, sand dabs, all the things that we love, that the older generation will really remember. You're going to start seeing those on restaurant menus and back in the fish markets of the peninsula. So it's something exciting for us as chefs, because we know that's coming. Yeah.
One of the things that I won't forget, and you probably have some other tips regarding this, but on one of our field trips with our ACF chapter, and they took us to the seafood plant up in Watsonville. And when they were filleting the salmon, they put a little hole in the tail so you could grab on and use your knife, and you could hold on to the skin so it came off.
Right.
There must be a number of other little things like that. Or what do you do with skin if you take it off? Because it's got a lot of crunch, and it can be used too.
Right. And you do see a lot of chefs that will take and scale the fish. They will fillet it, but keep the skin, and they'll, of course, use a hot skillet, and they'll get that skin very crunchy, put it into the oven, bake the fish, so you get kind of the tenderness of the fish, but the crunchiness of the skin. Very, very popular. It's really good to do that. But down at Fisherman's Wharf, I'll tell you, when those fishing boats come in, the guys down at the wharf that fillet fish, that are the deckhands and that are out there, they are unbelievable. You never seen anybody fillet fish as fast and as clean as those guys down there. I mean, it's just amazing to go see them when a boat comes in. It's really a skill and an art.
Wow. Yeah. We talked about briefly beforehand about presentation and colors, and you are so known for your beautiful colors and plate design. And so tell me how some of your tricks for that, because you're such an artist yourself.
Well, I think that's part of, I think with all of us chefs, that we all have different skills and different passions and things that we're really interested in when it comes to, the culinary world. I mean, that's what makes it so wonderful in our community of chefs, that we each have little things that we just like to do. We're artists. We create different things and different palettes. And I was taught early on that red, yellow, and green those were the three things. If you can incorporate red, yellow, and green into your plates, and of course that red can go all the way from a ruby purplish to a bright red, the greens all the way from that lime green to the dark kale, deep colors. So there's a whole palette within that range.
One.
Right. So, but
like
if you
Sherman-Williams.
Yes, exactly. So if you could take and incorporate those three colors in designing your palette, your
red,
plate,
yellow, and green,
and they are always going to come out. Your plate is it's gonna come out looking exciting. It's going to look interesting because you could take and put a white mushroom sauce with a white piece of fish, or and some cauliflower. It's just going to look all there's no pizzazz or pop to it. And we eat with our eyes first.
Yeah.
So you want to take visually and always bring the excitement of colors into food. And there's so much color anyways in the foods that we buy. It's phenomenal. So it really makes it exciting.
We need to create an acronym for RGY.
Yes.
Is that it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
RGY.
It'll change your life.
Yes,
You'll excite your
RGY.
kids. You'll excite your family, and even in the restaurants, But it's a little technique that I learned as a young teenager about food, and it kept with me throughout my life. So
that is brilliant.
yeah. So now when I design plates, people get very excited about it. Yeah.
Thank you. That is a deep, dark secret.
That is, yeah.
It really
yeah.
is, Tene.
Yeah.
I can't thank you enough. And again, like Bert, there's so much more. We could go on, and I want you to come back.
I would be very honored.
You've got so much.
When you grow up in a family history with generations, and our family being on Fisherman's Wharf for so long, there's just a lot of great things that happen to your life and a lot of great stories to tell. So I look forward to it.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Wendy.
And I just am such an admirer.
Thank
Till
you.
the next time.
Next time.